Katie will be talking to us about what you can do, coping mechanisms and so forth, to live better with your PBC. And we'll finish up the Congress with a often discussed issue, and that is, what can I do in my diet to manage PBC better? So we run the extreme from transplants to managing your condition with diet, and in the meantime, a nurse that'll be talking with us about what we can do to live better with the PBC. You heard that from Janice that Georgia Coletis had won the prize. I'm told that her sister, Maria Spears, is the PBCer, and Georgia lives in Singapore and heard about this conference and told her sister about the PBCers conference, and that's why she's here, which is, I think, terrific. Yes? Thank you. You all heard that. Janice says the store is open and will be open until noon. I've also told by Carol that the postcards that will be going out in the mailbox on the table back there to Lini, if you want to get a note to her and tell her what you think of this conference, drop her a note. I'm sure she'd appreciate it. So Lini Moore's mailbox is back there on the right-hand wall. See Carol, and you can drop a note to Lini personally if you'd like. Yes, Jeanette. After the break, not noon, so you better hustle, and I'm sure you'll be excused if you're moving around when we're talking this morning. Speaking of which, I do have one final joke to share with you. A gushy reporter told Phil Mickelson, "You are spectacular. Your name is synonymous with the name of golf. You really know your way around the course. What's your secret?" Mickelson replied, "The holes are numbered." All right, with that, I'm going to invite up to the mic Katie Gregory, one of our fellow PBCers. She's been on her journey with PBC for 23 years since she was diagnosed, and she's a registered nurse. Katie, the mic is yours. Welcome.
Thank you. Is it working? Actually, I do have to clarify for legal purposes, I am not really right now a registered nurse. I am a retired registered nurse, thanks to PBC. But there are some legal implications of claiming to be a registered nurse if you are not actually licensed, and I did have to let go of my license. So I am a retired nurse, or a retired registered nurse. I first of all want to start by thanking the organizers of this meeting. I don't know how to thank them enough. When it went on the digest, we were going to have a meeting, and they asked for volunteers. I thought about it. I said, I really should, and then I said, next time. I am so glad that there were people here that did not say next time. Because one of the things that happens if you actually come to the meeting, the doctors are here. I talked to 4 of the top liver doctors, and I got 3 different opinions. Which means, I mean, I laugh about it, but it gives me 3 different routes to go, because as you all know with PBC, what works for one doesn't work for another. So I have 3 different routes I can go for what I had just told my doctor was a disease called GOK, God only knows, that I've been battling since March. So I'm very excited, and it would not have happened if it had not been for the organizers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now that's the positive. The negative is, all these speakers had all this research. I have none. I don't know how to do a PowerPoint. They asked me where my PowerPoint is. They emailed me, are you going to do a PowerPoint? I don't know how to do one. My husband said, I'll do your PowerPoint for you. He doesn't know what to put on it. I don't know how to organize it so I can put it on it, what he needs to put on it so I can put it up there. So forget that. It's just me today. This is a tremendous group to talk to because we all understand each other. And that's what's really cool about it. When you are first diagnosed, we all have strong reactions. Perhaps if you've been going around being told you need counseling and there's nothing really wrong with you, maybe you got the news with a sense of relief. But for the majority of us, it was extremely scary. I remember my doctor had said to me he wasn't going to tell me what he was looking for until he found it. I said, I've got a good imagination. Please tell me what you think I might have. He said, well, I won't tell you anything about the disease. It's primary biliary cirrhosis. I had never heard of it. But I had a Merck manual, which is an old-fashioned book that has all the diseases in it. Ran upstairs, opened up my Merck manual, and it said, a potentially fatal. Didn't get beyond that. Took me quite a while to get beyond it. When you're first diagnosed, one of the things that happens, and it's not just PBC, it's any chronic illness, is it changes your self-image. You no longer become the person you thought you were. I thought I was a healthy, stay-at-home mom who was going to go back to nursing when our kids got out of school, which wasn't going to be very much longer. We were going to retire and we were going to do a lot of traveling. I did not plan on having PBC. And as this disease progresses, which it does, you have to constantly change your identity. The most recent is having to give up my nursing license. I'm a nurse. I'm very proud of the nursing I did. I did volunteer work for the Red Cross, which I was very proud of. Remember when the Haitians came over? I met them. I was dealing with the Haitian refugees. I have done a lot of work after hurricanes. I'm very proud of it. I helped organize a clinic for people who don't have any money. Can't do that anymore. And what we tend to do when this happens is we tend to get very negative. We start to say, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't. This is very destructive. Because if you allow your mind to take over and take over the negatives, you're going to make yourself sicker. You have to change the I can'ts to I cans. Okay, I can't be a nurse anymore. That's upsetting. But you know what? There aren't very many nurses in the world, which means there must be other things I can do. It took some time to find it, but I now teach remedial reading to the inmates at the Orange County Jail in Orlando, Florida. I can teach sitting down. Where I have problems with paperwork, I don't grade papers. We don't test them. We talk to them. We don't test them. And they don't care whether I'm sitting or standing. I can limit my hours, but I can still be productive. The other thing that happens when you do a can versus a cannot, you have a reason for getting up in the morning. Last Wednesday, I felt terrible. But I knew nobody else could teach that day but me. Everybody's out of town, it's vacation. And I knew that if I didn't go into the jail to teach, Willie, who had taken his reading level in 7 months from a kindergarten up to a level 5, wouldn't get his game time. Willie's been telling me every week now what day he's getting out of jail. If I didn't show up, I knew that he was not going to get out of jail when he wanted to. I got myself out of bed, I went in and taught. Now, okay, I benefited Willie. What did I do for myself? In going into the jail, I had to walk. The parking lot's over here, the jail's over here, and the cell block I have to go to is down there. I got some good exercise. And that releases endorphins. So I actually helped myself because I helped Willie. I also, at the end of the day, when I'm going to go to sleep, I'm not laying in bed saying, oh, I didn't get anything done. I have to do this, I have to do that. Nothing got done, look at me. I'm so sick, I'm so miserable. No, I lay in bed. I had gone to the jail and taught. You know what? Those guys need to learn to write better. Now, what am I going to do for a writing project? I can take my mind off of my illness, I can put it someplace else. Staying active and staying busy is very difficult when you feel horrible. It's very, very important. Remember this, the mind over the matter. You read about how important the mind is in illnesses. You can read all kinds of stories, not just mine, about how people, by positive thinking, have gotten better. Well, okay, I'm laying in bed. I feel absolutely horrible. Standing up is going to be an issue. And you're saying to me, think positive? What the heck is positive about PBC? And the last 2 years, I've been getting much worse, and I've been very sick since March. Tell me what's positive about PBC. Well, what you have to do is you have to very strongly take control of your mind and turn it around. Because if you allow those negative thoughts to get in, you're going to make yourself sicker. Remember about osteoporosis, which is one of the things that we can get as PBC? Do you know that women who break their hips, that's a potentially fatal illness, breaking your hip? Why? Because you lay around and you don't move and you get pneumonia, or you throw a blood clot. If you lay around, you're going to increase your chances of osteoporosis. Have you ever laid in bed? Remember, before you got sick, you had the flu, you laid in bed for 2 or 3 days, got up and you were like this, you were wobbly? You get weak very quickly. You need to be out moving. That does not mean you need to be running around the house or doing a marathon. It just means that you cannot stay in bed all the time. You do need to stay, if you have fatigue like I do, you do need to be in bed, but you have to break it up. So what do? With the fatigue? One thing, you start off with, if you're really feeling horrendous in the morning when you first get up, actually mine comes a little bit later, so I don't talk so much about getting out of bed, I talk about getting off the couch. If you feel really bad, look at what you have to do, pick the one, whatever it is you absolutely have to do. Not what you want to do, not what you should do, not what would be nice to do, not even what would make you happy to do. What do you absolutely have to do? For example, this morning, now actually I'm feeling quite good. If I had gotten up today feeling as I did last week, I would have thought, what do I have to do? Well, I got to give this talk. Obviously, to give the talk, I got to put on some clothes. Now I've broken it down. I must get up and put on my clothes. That's not a whole lot of stuff to do. Can I do that? Yeah, I can get up and put on my clothes. I need to eat because I can't take my pills, which have my energy pills, and if I don't have my energy pills, there's no way I'm going any further unless I have something in my stomach. I can go down and eat. And you break your task into small, doable things. There's another secret to this. Let's say you don't have anything you absolutely have to do. Look over your regular job. For example, for me, I'm a homemaker right now, retired homemaker, plus volunteer work. Take your chores at home, break them up into 15-minute tasks. You do not have to clean your entire house. You don't even have to clean an entire bathroom. Think, what can I do in 15 minutes? I can clean the toilet. Toilet's a whole lot easier to clean than the tub. You break these things into what you can do, and that's what you concentrate on. Further, break them down into hard task, medium task, easy task. Okay, I wake up, I'm having an absolutely horrible day, or actually now I'm on the couch, I actually get up and have breakfast, and then I feel terrible. I'm on the couch and I don't want to do anything. Anybody heard of a dry mouth? Sorry. So I think, I can't do anything. I remember positive thinking. Think about my 15-minute task. Now the house is an absolute disaster. If I need to leave a note for Tom, I can write it in the dust. But it's really bad. So I lay there, okay. In 15 minutes, I can empty the dishwasher, right? I can do that. I get out of bed, I stagger into the kitchen, I empty the dishwasher, I go back and lay down again. Now, very important, I don't look around the rest of the house and say, oh my goodness, I did the dishwasher, but look at the floors, look at the, no, no, no. What I do now is I pat myself on the back. Wow, you are really feeling bad, and look what you just did. You empty the dishwasher. And when I lay back down again, I try and use distraction. In fatigue, distraction is one of the most potent medicines you have. Read a book, paint a picture, take your brain elsewhere. Because as smart as you think you are, your brain is somewhat like a computer. It can't multitask. It looks like it's multitasking. It can only do one thing at a time. So if you take your brain and you concentrate it on something else, you're still going to have the fatigue, but your brain and you are not aware of it. Many times with fatigue, at least in my case, the worst of the fatigue does not last forever. Generally, it goes into a lousy fatigue, but not horrible. There's all kinds of fatigue. When you first get fatigue, you're not aware of this, but when it really starts to get to you, you find out there's this fatigue that says to you, I absolutely have to lay down. That doesn't last that long. So you empty the dishwasher, you lay down, you put your mind on something else. I love to read, and you focus on that. Sometime later, and it may be a few hours, you start to think about the fact, gee, you know, I did empty the dishwasher. What else can I do? Well, 15 minutes. Can I load it? Put the dishes in the dishwasher. And you do this 3 or 4 times, and by the end of the day, guess what? You've accomplished something. Do not look around at what you haven't done. You don't want the negatives. Not what I can't do. You do what did I do? So when I go to sleep at night, I don't think about all I still have to do. I say, you know, look what I just did. I emptied the dishwasher, I loaded the dishwasher, and I dusted 2 rooms. By doing this and by doing things and breaking them down gradually, a surprising thing happens. Number one, you actually start to get your house clean. I didn't say spotless. We don't go for spotless. Spotless is out the window. I just said it's going to be clean. But also, you get this positive attitude. And if you keep taking your brain and moving it away from the negative, your brain is going to start to stay away from the negatives. This is particularly true with another very bad thing we do. There's a couple of bad things we do. One of them is guilt. We love guilt. When you are guilty, you are wearing yourself out. And if you have fatigue problems, you got to save that fatigue. Your energy. Don't put your energy into guilt. We start off when we get PBC and we say, what did I do to deserve this? You didn't do anything. And how do I know, even if I haven't met you? Because nobody knows what caused PBC. So knowingly, you could not possibly have done anything to get PBC. So forget it. You've got it. Don't worry about it. It's there. Maybe someday in one of these meetings we'll hear about what you did that caused it. Right now, most likely you got it because you were born. But you did not do anything. Do not waste your energy on the guilt. The other place we put our energy is on worrying. I am terrific at this. This is one of my better skills, is worrying. We start off when we're first diagnosed, and as we go along and something goes wrong. We do the what ifs. What if I have this? I'm going to have a transplant. Will I have to have a transplant? Will I's are another big one. What if I can't work anymore? We go on and on and on about this. I had a support group for a while, except most of us got too tired to come out in the evenings. But we did have a psychologist come. And she said, you must live in the present. Where else would I live? I'm here. I know what that meant. Well, let me explain to you what she means by that. You have to look at what you have that you can actually change. You're worrying about something. Can I change it? You must bring yourself to today. What can I do to change this? Now, I said I got really sick in March. And then doctor number 5, several weeks ago, started to talk about this big-time surgery. I'd just gone through 3 small-time surgeries, and they just wiped me out. And he's talking to me about a big-time surgery. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, and I'm wondering, am I going to die? Am I going to live? I mean, I just went to bed. I actually kept myself awake at night. The good thing was, I'd been asked to give this talk. And then I remember, wait a minute, where's this positive thinking? Is there anything I can do about this surgery? Well, first of all, nobody even said I had to have it. It was just given as a possibility. So what the heck am I staying awake all night wondering if I'm going to have this surgery? 2 weeks later, doctor number 3 decides I don't need the surgery. I wasted an entire night's sleep over surgery that I don't have to have. Doctor number 3 told me he thought I had PSC. Now, I've come to enough of these meetings to know a little bit about PSC. Number 1, it's worse than PBC. And number 2, there's no cure. Okay, here we go again with the worry, worry, worry. But then I'm still writing this speech. And I'm saying, Katie, listen to your speech. Is there anything you can do about it? Well, I either have it or I don't have it. Can't change that. That is a known fact. But there was something I could do. I could find out as much as possible about it. So at least I would know, is it worth worrying about? I got on the internet. Some of the sites scared the tar out of me. But the American Liver Foundation, and by the way, be very careful what sites you use on the internet. Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Johns Hopkins, these are all real good sites. Joe Blow's is not. And anybody that's offering you a miracle, it's not. But stick with the major medical. Okay, I got to the American Liver Foundation. You know what they said? They said that this is a disease that many people live with for 15 to 20 years. Hey, I'm 22 years into PBC. Guess what side I'm going to believe? Now then, having gone through all this worry, I talked to 4 doctors here about what was going on with me. There's a possibility I have PSC, but they gave me other diseases. In fact, a couple of things can actually be treated. So again, I would have wasted all that energy, which I don't have, on worrying about things that aren't. If you're going to worry about something you can do something about. Now, how do I stop worrying? You say, that's real easy. How do you stop worrying? Turn the page or change the subject. I find myself worrying about the surgery. I say, can't do that anymore. I have to do something else. I have to think about something else. If need be, read a book. Watch a funny movie. Funny movies are particularly good, funny videos, because when you laugh, you release endorphins. Get your mind on something else. And every time you find yourself thinking about that surgery, which never is going to happen, take your mind elsewhere. An amazing thing happens, not immediately. Your mind will quit going back because it'll get the message, she didn't want to think about that anymore. And you'll get it to something else. But it is difficult to do, and it's something that you must do. Because again, if you don't do it, you're using up the energy you need for something else. Everybody following me so far? I'm not saying that when you go, you say, okay, I'm going to have a positive attitude, and it comes running down on you. No, it does not. It's a definite technique you have to use. You have to take the I can'ts and put them into I can'ts. Let me give you the best example I know of that. Billy Graham wrote a book several years ago that I read. It's about aging. Now, whether or not you believe in his religious beliefs has nothing to do with this book. He's getting older. When he wrote this book, he's someplace in his 90s. All he can do is really nothing. He has nurses come, lift him up, they get him dressed, they do all this kind of stuff. And he writes in the book and said he couldn't figure out why he was still on the earth. I mean, after all, he can't do anything. He felt wasted. His friends had died. There's nothing left. And then he got to thinking, he said, well, and of course he has a strong faith. He said, God must still need me here. There must be something I can do. So even though he can't, theoretically, as far as we can see, do anything, he thought about it, he prayed about it, and then it occurred to him he could still pray. As bad as he was, he could still pray. He turned his can'ts into what he can do. Now he has a reason for living. He said, God must want me here to pray. None of us are so bad that that's all we can do. But we do have to find things that we can do. We have to go into our houses when there's stuff to do, what we can do. Exercise is extremely important. When you're laying there, I remember somebody, I think it was on the digest, said, my exercise is getting out of bed and standing up. I've had days when I agree. But the fact is, if you don't exercise, you're in trouble. Move it or lose it. It's true. Now, that does not mean that you absolutely have to go and run a marathon. You don't have to do a whole lot. If you literally now have not been exercising and cannot move, start. The first thing in an exercise program is starting. And that's sometimes the hardest thing to do. Let me tell you about my illness to give you an idea of what exercise can do. I have been developing what I think is Sjogren's. I've been developing it for a long time. We are now at the point where we say it's symptoms suggestive of Sjogren's, and if I think about it, I'll go into Sjogren's a little bit. Anyway, I was getting sicker. In the middle of March, I developed pain back here. I have joint pain. It comes here. So, oh shoot, here's another joint that's sticking out. But it didn't go away, and nothing took care of it. I ended up in the ER. To make a long story short, after I convinced the ER doctor 3 times, he said to me, how did you fall? I convinced him I really hadn't fallen, and it really was not my heart. I had a very badly infected gallbladder, which had to come out. That led to pancreatitis. And you have pancreatitis, you don't want to. And then, just because I have to do things differently, I got shingles. Then, luckily, I had the immunization, so I went on the antivirals, and it didn't last very long, and it wasn't as bad as it should have been. It only lasted about 2 weeks. But I still had the shingles. In trying to figure out my diagnosis, because of the autoimmune stuff that's going on, my numbers were not doing what the book said my numbers were supposed to do if you had a bad gallbladder. So they did an ERCP. Now my poor husband, he went through 3 procedures while I was at the, I say he went through it, I was asleep. But he sat there in the waiting room and had the doctors come out and say, we didn't find what we were expecting. So they went in to find a gallstone, and what they found instead was that my duct from the liver to the intestines was blocked. They didn't have the right size stent, they put the stent, so they put a small one in. I got my gallbladder out and didn't get rid of my pain. I'm a nurse. I should have been fine. So it wasn't a question of my thinking I shouldn't be fine. I kept saying, when am I going to get better? What's going on? So they went back in to take that stent out and replace it with the right size one, and that stent was full of a fungal infection. So then they replaced that with a longer stent. When we went back to take out the longer stent, we found out that the other duct had now blocked. So this is why we have no idea what's going on. But anyway, so I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Interesting reaction among my friends. You know how we look well? I have been trying to tell my friends for 23 years that I'm sick. You go in the hospital for 2 weeks and you lose as much weight as I lost, hey, you must be sick. Win one. So now they all think I'm sick and treat me with delicate hands. But anyway, so I'm in the hospital for 2 weeks. There's a problem. I go in March 12th. I have a vacation plan for May 3rd. I want to go on this vacation. We are going to go and we are going to spend a month. We're going to Dubai, Turkey, and Athens. So we immediately say to the doctors on the day of admission, by the way, I got to go on this trip. The doctors smile. We'll do our best. And as I kept getting sicker, or even when I started to recover, I kept talking about my trip. Well, we'll see. Well, it's going to depend upon how you do. Now, what the doctors didn't realize was that my husband's very stubborn. I'm more stubborn. So, positive attitude thing? Okay. The doctors don't think I can go on the trip. It's pretty obvious. What do I have to do? I have to figure out what do I need to do in order to go on that trip. First thing, I have to be able to walk. Okay, we can do that. I get the IV pole. Have you done the IV pole walk? You take a thing with 3 wheels or 4 wheels and you try and make it go straight. It has no intentions of going straight. So you go like this. Didn't get very far. But each time I got up as many times as I could and I went a little further. They finally decided I needed a walker. It's funny, I was on fall precautions and nobody was doing anything to help me. But anyway, so I kept going further and further. When I got ready to go home, we tried to get a walker. Well, you know what happens on discharge day. No walker. So I got home and I had a cane. I went out, I live in a condo, went downstairs, I'm going to start walking. I walked around the parking lot, wiped me out. But I kept going. I walked a little further and a little further and a little further. Now, did I like it? No. But what I was doing was on my walks, what was I thinking about? Turkey, Dubai. I had all these positive, I'm thinking, I can do this. I watched videos on where I was going. I can visualize myself seeing all this stuff. By the time we went on our trip, I was walking 3 miles. That was about 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. I could walk 3 miles. And the doctor said, if you feel up to it, go. My primary said, well, we better give you enough medications to go. So I ended up taking Zofran and Percocets with me. Didn't end up using any of them. I also thought about all the novels I had read. The old British novels, you know. We go, where do we go to get well? We go to the sea. We go to the mountains. I was going to both. So I told my doctors, I'm breathing in the air. And I thought about it. I had had antivirals, antifungals, 3 rounds of antibiotics. I needed to get this stuff out of my system. I said to the doctor, sorry, I'm finished. You can do with me what you want. When I get back, I'm out of town. Came back much stronger. I surprised most people. Yeah, did I do everything on the tour? No. I did maybe 70, 75%. I had one day I had to spend completely in bed. When you travel, you're going to find, and you can travel, don't give up. But you may not be able to do absolutely everything. The first time I realized this, we were actually here in Vegas. My husband had a business convention, I came along. This was when I was having the occasional bad day. I had had good days. I was going all over Las Vegas. I was seeing everything. He was sitting through dull meetings. When that finally ended, we rented a car. I got in the car, and wouldn't you know it, I had a bad day. I'm in the car feeling absolutely terrible. We're going to Utah. We get into Utah. I sort of sit up a little bit. I look out. The scenery is absolutely spectacular. And it occurs to me, I can be home feeling terrible, or I can be here in Utah feeling terrible. But look at the scenery I'm seeing. The same thing is true when you travel. You may not be able to do 100% of the activities, but what did you get to do? You have to concentrate, again, what can I do? Not what can't I do. What can I do? Another good example was part of our tour was a sailboat ride, interspersed with hiking. Well, one day the tour was going to hike about 3 miles. It was about 85 or 90 degrees. The path was steep, slippery. There was no way I could do it. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I felt kind of bad I couldn't join the group. So the 9 other people got off the boat, went to do this hike. I found myself with a sailboat to myself, and the boat had to sail around this isthmus. So I am sailing in the Mediterranean on my private boat while they're up there hiking, sweating, getting dirty and thirsty. I think PBC is not always bad. So what I'm trying to say to you is a lot of your dealing with PBC depends upon how you approach it. If you look at the negatives, there's a zillion of them. If you want me to give a talk on the negatives of PBC, I can give you about a 3 or 4 hour, maybe even longer speech. But we don't want to hear that. Most of you come in here because you're afraid, what the heck is going to happen to me? You're going to do, and I love this, you're going to live with the disease. You're going to modify. You're not going to give up. Find out what you can do. If it's something you know you can't do, I mean, I had to admit I can't nurse anymore because of the fatigue and because of the stamina problems and the cognitive thinking problems that I've developed. Okay, can't nurse. I'm not going to think about my nursing anymore until I got here and saw that they called me a nurse. I'm not going to think about that. There's no sense in it. Why should I pull myself down? No. I'm going to figure out how am I going to teach my guys in the jail to write. They got lousy skills. That's what I'm going to concentrate on right now. What can I do? And I'm going to concentrate on those things. Okay. I got some time now, so what I've done in the past is I've actually gone over some of these medications and things that you can use. Now here's a real thrill for a former nurse. Now I have a great amount of respect for Dr. Bolus. I caught him on something. I know something that he doesn't know. And I went up to him after his talk and I said, Dr. Bolus, I'm going to give a talk in a few days and I think I'm going to say something different than what you said. And he didn't know this. So you guys are going to be right in with it. On fatigue, he said you cannot get Provigil. That is not true. Provigil. This is why I have the board for these medication stuff. Now, a few years ago, this is a medication that was developed for a condition called sleep apnea. You know, not every illness is PBC. There's some people that have some pretty lousy things going on. Sleep apnea is a condition where all of a sudden, with no warning, all day long, it can happen more than one time a day, you fall asleep. Boom. It's like a convulsion. You just sort of pass out. So they developed this drug, and it's called Provigil. I actually brought this up at a previous convention because a doctor, when we did our mini convention in Florida many years ago, a doctor brought this one to my attention. The problem is it is not approved for PBC. It is a controlled substance. So when your doctor writes you a script for this drug, you're probably going to get a no. So what do you have to do? You have to get it for something that is approved. So your doctor has to write on the prescription day, time, sleepiness. It's not a lie, that's what you've got. And if under the drug, he puts the drug, the dosage, he writes daytime sleepiness, you're going to get it approved. Okay? But if you don't put that on, you're not going to get it approved. Now Provigil is the, yay brain. Anybody lose their memory sometimes? Provigil is a brand name. The generic, because of the microphone, I had to take my glasses off, is, and I want to check the spelling on this. Oh, I didn't even write it in here. Monofil. Monodofil, yeah. Monodofil. Doesn't matter. If you order the Provigil, they'll send you what they want. A couple of things about this drug. there is a rule that I learned as a nurse that a lot of people don't know. You cannot cut a pill apart unless it's scored. Scored means there's a line down the middle. Provigil is scored. I'm going to tell you why this is important in a minute. Nondafilin, I knew I'd come up with it. It's Mondafilin is the generic, which is what I'm actually taking. It's not scored. But with my brain being where it's at, I didn't notice that until I'd already done this for a while, so I broke it. The reason they don't want you to break a pill that's not scored is many pills have a coating on the outside which determines where in your digestive system it is used. Remember the discussion yesterday, they don't want this, whatever it is, this new drug, to go anyplace until the very end? They got to coat that thing with all kinds of stuff so that as it goes through the digestive tract, it doesn't get digested. So because you have these coatings, you don't want to break these pills apart. Now, you're not going to hear me say this, and I will never admit to saying this. I've been breaking that apart for quite a while, and I'm still alive to tell about it. The reason this is also important is because this is a drug is habit forming. I didn't say addicting. But what that means is that you need progressively larger doses. So, step number one, take it at the lowest dose possible. The other thing that they don't tell you about, which I found out because what I do now, when I get a new drug, I go on the internet and read about it. Be very careful. Obviously, the drug companies are going to have comments about how wonderful this drug is. Their competitors are probably going to tell you how terrible it is. If there's enough opinions of people who are actually taking the drug, and you read a lot of them, you're going to get a general idea of what's really true about the drug. The one thing about Provigil, you may have to take larger and larger dose. But it's being used now by truckers, and they've come up with a solution. Don't take it every day. Take it like 5 days a week, or take it 3 days off one. If you do this, you will not need as much more. Also, and I'm going to give you a couple of other drugs to take, don't expect to become the young, sprightly 20-year-old because you're on this drug. For me, what it does is it takes away that feeling that I absolutely have to lay down. I don't necessarily feel good on the days that I'm taking it, but I can function. And I'm at the point now where quality of life is what's important. And if I can function, then I can take my brain and put it elsewhere, and then I'm not thinking about how rotten I feel. Okay? So, don't expect miracles. What is cool is, until recently, this has never even been mentioned in PBC. Did you hear how many times this drug was mentioned in this conference? I was quite thrilled. You weren't listening for it, I was. But several of the doctors mentioned it. And I think the family practice doctor mentioned it. It is becoming more and more accepted in PBC because I think it does work. Now, it is a prescription drug. When you have a prescription drug, it means you have to do something I don't like to do. You have to go to the doctor. There are drugs that are non-prescription that are used for fatigue. This brings us to a question of anyway, these herbals are not regulated. Let me say that about 7 times. Herbals are not regulated. Herbals are not regulated. It means when you order an herbal from an unknown source on the internet, you could get rat poison for all they know. Because I can take anything I want right now, and I can put it on the internet and say, this is the best thing for something or else, and nobody would sue me. You have to be very, very careful of the companies you use. I use Puritan's Pride. I have no stock in it. I just happen to know that it's good. If you have a drug company on the internet that you want to use, check with a pharmacist. Is this a legitimate company? Some of them are very good. And the reason I say that is because the next drug I'm going to recommend is very expensive unless you get it online. It's called coenzyme Q10. This is an interesting drug because it's something that we actually have in our system, and there is literature that says that women particularly, as we get older, we lose it. You know what this drug does? It produces energy. This is a drug that sometimes is recommended to be given if you take a cholesterol medication. Therefore, this is a drug that when you go to your doctor and you say, you know, somebody said I might take this for the fatigue. He might not roll his eyes. He might actually say, you know, like mine did, that's not a bad idea.
What strength?
Okay, right now, I take 100 milligrams. My doctors actually told me I can take it up to 4 times a day. I only take it once a day. Again, another drug where either my fatigue is getting worse, which I refuse to accept, or the drug is not affecting me as much. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, it's the drug's fault, not mine. Start with 1 a day. Do not take either Provigil or this or the next one I'm going to mention after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Why? It's supposed to keep you awake. You take it after 4 o'clock and you might be on the internet at night. So don't take it after 4 o'clock. I started at 400 and then I increased it to twice a day at lunch. You can take it morning, lunch. It does help with the afternoon. When I started to get the Sjogren's system, I went on another medication which has helped with the fatigue amazingly, and I cut back on this one. But CoQ10, very good drug. Again, will not make you run up and down the halls, but it's another one. I would suggest that those of you who are not taking anything, ask your doctor about starting on this one even before the Provigil. Start on this one, see what it does for you. It takes about 3 weeks to kick in. So you can't, this is not a pill you can pop when you're going to go out so you'll feel good. No, it's not that kind of a pill. And then, if you need more, you have alternatives. Another alternative on the same line is Akai. Now this is a drug that's, well, it's one of the ones that's a favorite of a lot of health food stores. It comes in juices. I think I've seen it in cookies. I've seen it in all kinds of things. The problem is I have no clue how much of the actual drug I'm getting. I would prefer to order it online and get a specific dose and know what I'm taking. It's another drug, I think I take 1,000 of that. It's another drug that you you don't want to, you can take more of. You don't want to take after 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Since my memory is gone, this is another thing I recommend. My medical history and my drugs. You want to know how much I take? Oh, okay, I can go right down here and I should find it. Okay, I can't find it. But this is why I'm not nursing right now. Anyway, it's a good drug. Again, I order it. These 2 drugs can be very expensive if you buy them in the drugstore. And I don't like to spend a whole lot of money. Okay. There's another drug out called Nuvigil. I did write this one down. It's a VI. I thought this was another brand of Provigil. It's not. It has a slightly different mechanism. So if your Provigil doesn't work, switch to Nuvigil. I think it's cheaper also. So you might want to start with this. The thing you have to remember when we give you lists of stuff to do, keep in mind, we are all different. All of us in this room that have PBC, we could all stand here, list our symptoms, and no 2 of us are alike. We could tell you the history of how we progressed, no 2 of us will be the same. And I could tell you what I'm using, and there's probably somebody who says that doesn't work. That's a bad thing, because I tell people PBC is a disease you learn to live with. And what I mean by that is as the symptoms occur, you try something. If it doesn't work, don't give up. I have 2 pages of stuff for itching. You find what works for you. Hopefully, out of my 2 pages, something should work. But what works for me and what works for you is going to be different. So I give you these drugs. I wouldn't take all of them at once. I'd start with this. Don't need a doctor's prescription. But I would not take anything without asking your doctor. If I were designing illnesses, I would have a rule, or life, I should say. 1 illness per person. That's it. You get PBC, that's it. Nothing else. Hate to tell you that, doesn't work that way. Just because you have PBC doesn't mean that you can't get any other disease that's around. That's why you don't assume all your symptoms are PBC. But it also means that whenever you get you want to start something new, take it to your primary care doctor or your hepatologist. Yeah?
I just wanted to say something about the problems with CoQ10. I've taken CoQ10. I just checked it again on the NIH website. It says that above 300 milligrams, it may increase liver enzymes.
This is what I'm starting to say. When you're going to take a medication, take it to your doctor and ask. The reason is, and I would do this even with creams and lotions, all of our livers are different. Believe it or not, in the 23 years I have had PBC, my liver is doing fine. And Dr. Nelson at Shands said to me, but you're going to have all the autoimmune problems, which is true. So I can take stuff like Tylenol and all this, I can take all these drugs, I don't have to worry about it. He said, don't worry about it, that liver's not your problem. Some of you have cirrhosis, and some of you are someplace in between. Also, some of you have other diseases and you're on other medications, and these things can get all jumbled and jangled together. Go to your doctor, say, this is what I'd like to do, what do you think? And if he says no, what do you say? Why? Why? Always know. You need to understand what it is you're taking, why you're taking it, and if you're not taking it, why am I not taking it? Okay? If he says no, why can't I take it? Get an answer. You have to be completely in control of your health. Part of the reason is what they call the placebo effect. Heard a little bit about this with the drug companies. I could come in here, I could go out and buy some really neat capsules. I could put anything I want in them. I could come in here and I'd say, you know what, I just found out this is the best thing for fatigue you've ever seen. Approximately 30% of you will feel better if you take it. This is the old mind over matter. It's the placebo effect. Now, you can use that to your advantage. If you believe what you're taking is going to make you better, guess what happens? It's probably going to have a better chance of working. If the doctor gives you a pill and you say, this is a piece of junk, your chances of having it work have just dropped. If you know what you're taking and you know why you're taking, then your mind is going to believe that what you're taking is going to help and you're going to feel better. I will take the placebo effect. I know I started on a couple of drugs a couple of weeks. I said to my doctor, I need something. If this is just the placebo effect, I'll go for it. And he said, I think these might actually help you. That's even better. But you have to believe in it. So talk it over with your doctor. Okay. And on that coenzyme, I said start at 100. She was saying 300 is bad. I was saying 100 at noon. My doctor did tell me, not you, I could go up to 400. But again, between you and your doctor. Let's see, what else do we have? When you're dealing with your fatigue, break up what you're doing. I also found, for me anyway, if you're going along and you're doing something and the fatigue starts to hit you. Now there's certain different ways fatigue hits. Sometimes it knocks you for the loop. If you feel this coming on and you're in a situation where you can stop, I have found that if I lay down for 15 or 20 minutes and I drink a Coke, the Coke is probably placebo. I'm convinced it has zillions amounts of caffeine and it's going to make me feel better. But if you lay down for 20 to 30 minutes, quite often you can get up and feel much better. Whereas if you continue, you may really crash. So if you can possibly stop when the fatigue first hits, doesn't mean quit forever, take a break. Also, if you push too hard, one of the problems with PBC is we have a problem regenerating energy. So you and I, somebody without PBC, okay, my husband and I go and do something, we both get tired. He will recover faster than I will. That's your friend PBC. Doesn't say stop. Keep going. You're going to exercise? Do some. If you don't feel well, do something. Don't quit. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else. And you know your body better than anybody else, and if you've ever talked to your doctor, you know that's true, because they don't believe you. Okay, itch. I have a zillion things about itch because none of them work that well. Now, when I first started with PBCers, one of the things they recommended, which was actually worked for quite a few people, put oatmeal in your bath water. If you do that, you've made a mess of your bathtub. So PBCers are smart. Someone said, take the oatmeal and put it in pantyhose. Great idea. Wash yourself with that. Cool idea. We have progressed. We are getting modern. There are now oatmeal soaps on the market. I started recommending online periodically oatmeal soap. Then I started actually trying a whole bunch of them, and I found out not all oatmeal soaps work. I was very excited when I came today to see Grandpa's. When I came to this meeting, y'all got a sample of Grandpa's soap? For me, that works. In fact, I brought Grandpa's soap with me. I don't use hotel soap. I carry Grandpa's soap around. I found I was using Grandpa's soap, and I took a big long trip, and after 3 weeks of not using it, I developed the most horrendous itch I've ever had. If I keep using some of these, I'm okay. There's another one on the market that is easier to find, and it's called St. Ives. It's a liquid soap. St. Ives oatmeal and shea butter. That has been a lifesaver also. The problem is I like to travel, can't carry it. I mean, that's a problem if it ever leaks. So I use the Grandpa's when I travel, and then I was using St. Ives. I found another one that I like even better. I hesitate to mention this because I talked to the owner of the place that makes it. I said, we have a group of people that itch. Would you like to let us tell them about your product? They're a very small store. They're on the internet. He said, you'd flood us with too many orders. We are a home store. But I'm going to tell you anyway. This is in Tarpon Springs, Florida. We happen to go over there because they have a great restaurant. And Tarpon Springs has a place that makes soap. On the internet, it's called Get a Guru Handmade Soaps. They make an oatmeal and goat milk soap. I now use that. The problem is, you don't live near Tarpon Springs, that I know of. Wait a second, Guru. Get Guru, here we go. Yeah. Well, on their site you can order this soap, but they charge $7.95 to ship, whether you buy 1 bar or a dozen bars. You haven't tried it. You don't know if it's going to work for you, but you might want to consider trying 1 bar. I ordered 12 large bars at a time. I pay $7.95 for shipping. It lasts me over a year. So it works out okay for me. I don't know for you. Another thing that works that they have tested and seems to work quite well is ultraviolet light. I have a friend who's a dermatologist. Now remember, I'm from Orlando. He said to me, Katie, I've used this, it works. You can either pay me or you can go out and get in the sun. Guess what I did? I went out and got in the sun. I mean, Chris Crotty's a nice guy, but I'm not going to pay him for a treatment. Those of you who live in the north, the tanning salons and stuff like that, I would still do that under a dermatologist because tanning salons can be interesting. But the ultraviolet light does seem to be very effective for a lot of people in dealing with the itch. And if you go out in the sun, according to Chris Crotty, 20 minutes is fine.
We do have some questions.
Some questions. Okay, I will go to questions. This is the scary part. You may hear, and I haven't a clue. Also, remember, what I'm saying is for me only, and can't be responsible for it. Please spell the last 2 meds. What were the last 2 meds? I did. I did put them up here. You can't read it. You want my glasses? Here. Okay. No, I didn't put Nuvigil up there. Sorry. It's on the next page? I thought I put it up there. There it is. N-U-V-I-G-I-L. Nuvigil. And what was the other one you wanted?
A-C-A-I-I?
A-C-A-I-I. You'll see these, you'll see Acai juice in your grocery store. Okay, but like I said, with that you don't know the dosage.
There's a few more.
Oh, tips to use on a doctor's visit. Doctors, first of all, are not God. Let me repeat that. Doctors are not God.
With due respect to Dr. Hitch.
Oh, Dr. Hitch, I'm sorry, except for him. He's okay.
What other meds do you want up there?
Oh, I don't know. I have to ask her. Anyway, So when you go into a doctor's office, number one, they're not God. They have good days and they have bad days. Most of the stuff they prescribe is based upon where they went to medical school. They prescribe what was prescribed at the hospital they trained at. So I may tell you about a brand and you may get another brand, and that's only because of where they trained. Or perhaps they had a bad experience along the way. So just because they've told you something, if it doesn't work, don't give up. Go back to them and say, didn't work. Now, some of the doctors, the really good ones, are going to say, oh, try this. There are some others that have a problem, and they might get mad at you. Move doctors. Write down, before you go in, your questions. Studies have shown, and I remember this fact because I used to tell them when I was doing telephonic nursing, you will remember approximately 25% of what you hear. And as the doctor yesterday said, once you get a bad diagnosis, you turn off your hearing. Write down what you're told so you will remember. Take someone with you, particularly if you're going to go and hear about something new that might be going on. It's one thing if you're going to go to the doctor and you're just going to have a routine blood pressure check. But if you're going to go to the doctor because you don't know what's going on, take someone with you. You've got your questions written down, and they can also hear the answers. And perhaps between the two of you, you've upped it to 50% that you're going to remember. When you're prescribed a drug, what do I expect it to do? You want me to take this drug? What's it going to do? How long is it going to take to work? I've taken it, 5 minutes have gone by, hey, nothing's happened. Oh, it's going to take 3 weeks. You need to know that. What are the possible side effects? A lot of this stuff you can look up on the internet. Make sure that he knows you're aware of it. And what are we going to do if this doesn't work? What are my alternatives? The doctor tells you you need surgery. What if I don't get it? We just immediately say, hey, he said I needed surgery, I'm on my way. No. What if I don't do it? What if I don't take this drug? What are my risks? You see, nothing in medicine is 100%. They call it practicing medicine for a reason. They call it the art of medicine. You are getting one person's idea on what might work. I talked to the doctors here. I talked to 4 doctors here, right? I got 3 opinions. The reason, and they were all different. The reason I didn't get 4 opinions was because 2 of them were standing together and they came to an agreement. And I'm going to a 5th doctor in 2 weeks and I'll probably get a 5th opinion. You need to know what your alternatives are. You are signing a paper when you have a procedure done that says it's an informed consent and it's supposed to mean you're informed. That means you know what's going on. How many times do you? What happens if it goes wrong? What are my chances? Now, there's no such thing as a 100% guarantee. What we have is risk and benefit. And you have to balance them, but you have to balance them, not the doctor. What are the risks of this procedure? I stopped URSO for a while. Why? Because I decided quality of life to me was what was important. I was getting older. How much sooner would I die if I went off of it? I'm tired of locating every bathroom in Orlando. You want to know where a bathroom's located in Orlando? I can tell you. I was tired of that. I was feeling horrible on URSO. I went off URSO and felt great. I am not recommending anybody here go off URSO. I think URSO is a wonderful medication. But I've had PVC for 23 years. And I've been on URSO for many, many years. And in fact, Dr. Nelson said to me, he said, yeah, he said, you probably got the most benefit you can. And then he said, watch your labs, and if they go back up, go back on it. Fine. I got some more. Some more. You want me to get all these? I'm trying to, yeah.
What's your website for the
Guru. Getaguru.com. Get, G-E-T-A-A-G-U-G-U.
G-U-R-U.
Getaguru.com.
Okay, who do you ask about your medications? Doctors should give you a lot of information. Pharmacists. Use the same pharmacist, if possible, for all your medications. The reason being, all medications have side effects and interactions. Have you seen the size of the PDR? It's about this thick. How many of you can memorize that? The computer can. And what happens when you go to the same pharmacy, they put it in the computer perks up and says if there's any possible interactions. Ask your druggist. I was having trouble with anemia, and I was trying to figure out, I was looking actually for an old-fashioned drug that I knew. And the pharmacist said to me, if you want your blood levels to go fastest, this is the brand you should use. Pharmacists know these things. They're good. Okay. Okay. I have. Okay, if your pharmacist is not allowing you a medication because of your age, call all the pharmacies in your neighborhood. Ask them if they'll let you buy it. That may be a local thing, I don't know. Just check with all the different pharmacies. They all have different rules. Also, if you don't have drug insurance, by all means, when you're ordered a drug, get on the phone, Walmart, Walgreens, check the prices. They vary considerably. Nuvigil is time release. I thought that too. It's time release Provigil, but on the Sjogren's website, they said somebody, I don't even know if they know what they're talking about. That's why I didn't go into it. Said that there are two different modes of action. Okay. Anyway, one other thing in closing. Get yourself a notebook. Put it beside your computer. When somebody writes in and says, "What do I do?" Blah, 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 write it down. You don't have that symptom now. You may get it later. Then when you wake up in the middle of the night like I did, you don't have to search through all the old digests. Keep these here, keep that by you. Now, I have this. If you have something that's bothering you, you're more than welcome to look at my list. And you're more than welcome to email me. You got my email in there. And I will be more than happy to share my list with you for what I have for treatment, because I couldn't go into everything, okay? Thanks, you've been great.
Thank you, Katie.
And thanks for your friendship.
Katie, I got a little something here for you.
Oh.
From the PBCers. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Put on that wall.
Yeah, thank you very much. I got to gather my stuff. And I will be here till lunchtime, so.
There you go. Thanks, Katie.
My pleasure.